Doing another one of these Type R bumpers right now. So since I have this other bumper here, I wanted to point out two things before the video starts of how to assemble this bumper. So when I was doing this from the back, I couldn't see this hole. They started it, it just didn't go all the way through, so you don't have to eyeball it like I do in the video for this one. Also, for some reason on this bumper, same manufacturer, it came with this, which you don't need. So it might twist off. If not, we're gonna get a razor blade or an X-Acto knife or something and cut that piece and that piece. Try and make sure you don't damage your paint when you're cutting these. But yeah, these two tabs are not needed, just in case you guys ordered one of these and it came with these two and you guys are gonna try and figure out how to get this to fit with the grill. It's not gonna happen, so you don't need these. I don't know if they put this just so that the painters have something to hang it on or something, but yeah, this is not needed. So we're gonna cut it with an X-Acto knife right there and right there. Just when you're doing that, try not to damage your paint. Besides that, those two tips, hope you guys like the video on the step-by-step on how to assemble one of these bumpers. Hey you guys, so in today's video, I'm gonna be showing you guys how to assemble another Type R. This one's from a different manufacturer. This one looks a little bit more real than the other one. And the difference between this one and the other one is these corners right here line up more like the OEM one, so they're gonna sit flusher than the cheaper one. That one usually tends to poke out on the corners a little bit. This one sits better, and because of the fog light caps and the front lip with the carbon fiber texture on the front lip, it just looks more like the real Type R front bumper. So we're gonna be showing you guys step by step. This bumper does not come with fog lenses and a Type R style upper grill included. But we're also going to show you guys how to install those. I'll put the link in the description for everything that we're using here. When we sell these, even when we sell these to body shops, we just always get questions, well, how is this bumper supposed to get assembled? So because we get a lot of questions, I'm just going to make a video so that anybody that purchases this item from us, we can just send you the link, or even if you guys order this online from somebody else, you guys know exactly how to put it together. So first thing is, on the real bumper and on most aftermarket bumpers, it doesn't have these holes right here. It has a spot for you to put a screw, so you just put this, sit it on there, and screw it in. Since this one doesn't, we're gonna have to get nuts and bolts that fit into these holes to put these fog lenses in first. Just make sure you pay attention what side's left and what side's right. Left side is usually gonna say LH on the back of the lens, and right is gonna say RH. So you're gonna line these up. We're gonna find a nut and bolt that fit these holes so that we could put this together. First, we're gonna put the lens on both sides. After we put those lenses on, the fog cap cover has two pieces to it. So you gotta put this together, and then you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws, and you put the screws in there. Don't over tighten these because they're plastic. Like for example, if you're doing it by hand, you should be good. If you're using something like this, I usually set this to like 7, so something towards the middle. If you have it on like impact or 10, you'll end up usually stripping it or tightening it too tight where it will crack that plastic on the inside of this. Also sometimes, let me get the camera a little closer. So sometimes from the manufacturer, as you can see right here, it doesn't have the little hole, so that the screw will go in easier. We're just gonna go ahead and cut that part off. Now when I put that self-tap or the little black screws that it comes with, it will just go into the hole a little easier without that plastic tab that was sticking up. And it's only on this side. The other side, all the holes were good. So if you guys run into something like that, just go ahead and cut it flush so that it won't be sticking up. Alright you guys, so when you put these in, if you guys have good lighting or walk outside, just make sure that the holes line up before you put the screw. So the first time I put it, it actually barely skinned it. It wasn't lining up. So now this time I'm kind of just checking it to make sure that the hole right here lines up with the hole on the inside. Do that to all 5 of them on both sides.
Like I said, when you put these together, just make sure you don't over tighten them.
Another reason you don't want to over tighten them too much is because the screw's holding it and pulling it from the back. You could see a slight indentation right there. If you were to put your gun too high or tighten it too tight, that indentation where the screws are is going to be pulling it in more. And you don't want to have it looking like this and then having it look like there's a bunch of pressure in certain spots. The caps are assembled. We're going to go ahead and install this lower middle part of the grill. So to install this piece, it doesn't clip in place like the other one does. The tabs are just going to line in here, but they're not going to snap in place. So the way you do this is you have to put it from basically the back of the bumper. So I'll kind of show you guys right now. You got to get the tabs to go into these holes on the bottom. And when you get them to go in right there, you also have 4 right here that are going to go into the corners right here. So when you bring this in from the bottom, from the back, you kind of pull this upward like that to line these in on the bottom. Get these to go in on the corners. Then you got to kind of bend this gently to slide in. You need these 2 corner ones to slide into there. All the middle ones will go in pretty easy. Once you bend this a little bit, they'll pop into place right there. So just put it from the back, like I said. Get them to line up on these tabs. Like I said, they're not going to clip in place. You're going to have to use the screws that it comes with to put this in place. So you want to get these corners out first from the back. You want to get those bottom ones to line up first. Now we've got the bottom ones. We're going to gently bend this top part. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little piece of masking tape. Just right here. So that when I have to keep pulling it up and down to line it up, I don't want to scratch the paint right here with the friction. Alright, so when you guys are trying to push this in, make sure these 2 tabs right here are also lining up. Because if not, then it's going to give you a hard time. So I'm going to apply another piece of tape to the outside on this side. Since this side's in, I'm going to remove this. Which good thing I put tape because you could start to see where the plastic was starting to go up right here on the corner. Okay, now I got this part on. So I'm going to take out this tape. Same thing, you can see where it's starting to get a lot of pressure right here from having to push and pull and bend right here on this plastic. If I didn't put that tape, it would have probably scraped off that paint on that section. Now I'm going to go look for some nuts and bolts to put the fog lenses on both sides so that I can put this cap on. So the way this cap and that lower part of the grill is, you just slide in these tabs. So you have all these tabs that are going to slide in place. When you slide these tabs in place, don't break these tabs, because when you slide it in place, basically the only thing holding it in is going to be these screws. Don't use a bigger screw. You don't want to rip the plastic, because then it's going to do no good. It's just going to rip the plastic and it's going to separate. So use the screws that they give you. Try and get it right in the middle. And when you put this in, I'll go ahead and show you guys where we put the screws. Whatever way is easier to clear, up or down, and then I'll show you guys how the lip assembles for this. Alright guys, so now we're going to be putting the fog lenses in. So I found some nuts and bolts that fit. Like I said, the real Type R bumper and the other generic one they make, they just have a solid plastic where you put some screws like this to hold it in place, and there's only 3 instead of 4. This manufacturer made it a little bit different, so we're going to put all 4. So since that one is not big enough for this to go in, I'm just going to get a drill real quick and drill that hole a little bigger. So even if you're transferring over your fog lenses, if you have a bumper that originally came with them from the dealership, same thing, just find some nuts and bolts that will fit. So that should line up now. Alright you guys, so now that we tightened the fog lenses up on both sides, we're gonna go ahead and put this cover on. So like I said, these don't snap in place, they're just gonna slide in. Sometimes one might be bent a little bit in or out, so when you try putting it in, it's not gonna go in. So just try and look from the back when you're sliding it in. See if any of them are not going in so that you could bend it in or out, whichever way you need. Just don't bend it a lot where you're gonna end up breaking the plastic. This plastic is pretty flexible versus some of the harder plastics we've dealt with. So it shouldn't be too easy for you to break the little tabs, but just proceed with caution with everything. You don't want to break something on an expensive bumper that you just purchased. So this side's going in. I'm gonna look from the back to see what's hitting on the other tabs. Alright, so for example, when I'm putting it in, these bottom ones seem to be hitting. So I'm gonna slightly bend the plastic a little bit up on those. And let's try this again. In the back, once I line it up on the plastic, I'm actually gonna go ahead and drill the holes. So for example, if it's sticking out somewhere about here, I'm gonna start off drilling it with a drill bit instead of trying to do it with the screw, just in case the screw's a tight fit or if it starts going in and then slips one way or another. That way it'll just go in easier. I'm gonna use a drill bit and drill the hole as a pilot hole and then put the screw. Same thing on both sides. Once I get it lined up, I'm gonna have somebody else come hold this side, or I could try adding 1 or 2 screws to hold this piece for now while I line up the other end. Alright you guys, so now the fog light cap is on. Let me show you guys how it goes on. So you guys see all those tabs? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and one under here, 8 tabs. So it's easier to do it with 2 people. If you could have somebody hold it in for you while you're putting the screw, just so the bumper doesn't slide forward while you're doing it. I started the first 2 by making pilot holes with a drill bit. Turns out these screws actually go in pretty easy. So the ones that I was able to reach with this, I did with the regular drill bit like that. The ones that were in a tighter spot or a weird angle, I used this angle bit to put them in so that it wouldn't slip and like drill into the actual bumper. So I'm gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. Alright you guys, so from the 5 screws that hold these 2 pieces of the caps together, the other side sits sturdier right here. This one you could kind of see it lifting up a little bit. So if that's going to be something that bugs you guys, could try using a piece of 3M tape, which we're going to try since we already have it on the vehicle and it's together. So we're just going to put a piece of 3M tape, the outdoor rated one, right behind here, and we're just going to apply some pressure. So as you can see, that little gap went away now. So it should hold up. If anything, if it peels off, it's in a spot where you could kind of pull it forward, just peel it off and put another piece. Alright guys, so the next part, the lip that comes with this one is different than the other ones. The other one for the other manufacturer just snaps on and you put 2 screws on each side. This one's a 2-piece lip, so you got 1 piece and the other part that goes over this. This is honestly my first time putting this bumper together, so I'm learning as you guys learn basically. I would kind of think that this would tuck into the inside of this and then you put the screws, but then once you get to the corner, this corner hits that. So because of that, I'm assuming that this goes on the bottom to actually sit right here. You can see little tiny indentations here on the bumper that match up with the indentations on this lip. So we're gonna put this on the outside, line up the holes, and put the screw, the little black screws they give you, and drill it in. I'm actually gonna, all of these were not like drilled through all the way, so I'm gonna drill them through all the way, just so when I screw it to the bumper, I could actually line it up with the indentation better. If you guys are also gonna be drilling these out, you could use the screw that it comes with to drill it. If you use a drill bit, don't make the hole bigger than the size of the tip of the screw, because then it's pointless. You're gonna make the hole too big. When you put the screw, it's not even gonna hold this to that like it's meant to do. So because of that, use a small drill bit, or you could even use the screw that it comes with to just drill the hole so that you could see and make sure this hole lines up with that indentation there. So we're gonna go ahead and do that on all of them. Then this one, you most likely need 2 people. You could technically lay the bumper upside down, but we're not trying to squish that upper part where the grill's gonna lay. So because of that, I have them holding it. If you try standing it up by itself like this, the bumper's like a polyurethane material, so it's very flexible. It starts flexing out, and there's no way you're gonna line it up or hold it in place to put this on. So I suggest using 2 people for this. It will make the job for you guys a lot easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and drill these out, and then we're gonna start drilling this stuff together. When you guys drill these 2, same thing like I said on the other ones, don't over tighten them, because then there's no way the screw's just gonna like fall out. So grab a marker and just make a little dot where the indentation's at. Since the hole's so small and since it's painted, this will just make it a little bit easier for you guys. Alright guys, so we finished putting the screws. There's no screws on the 3 for the corners yet, until we actually put the lip on. So these 4 are gonna end up being for the corners that you gotta tighten up with the Allen wrench. And then the washer is gonna go on the side of the nut. Whoop, the nut that I just dropped on before. But you see this plastic hole right there? The 2 gold screws, those are gonna go in here once you put the lip together from the back. You'll see the hole from the inside of the bumper. So when you lay this down, you're gonna, well, that's how we're gonna put it. We're gonna screw it in. That should be the right way. These tabs are actually supposed to line up with those, so don't screw those in on that bottom part of this lower grill until you put the lip on, I guess. So we're gonna have to drill a hole through this, through both plastics, and then put the screw. That's gonna be the part where that other part of the lip needs to slide in. So this needs to be able to go up high enough so that you could fit both pieces through there. Alright, so now you can see these tabs are going to be lining up with those holes on the grill. So this has to shift over a little bit this way. Can you get that one?
Push it. Push the lid.
Yeah. Alright guys, so they slid in. Now we're going to go ahead and put these 2 screws in the back just to help put pressure right there. Before I put those 2 screws, I'm gonna make sure that these little pieces are not gonna push in forward too much to end up scratching up the lip. I mean the lower part of the bumper. All right, so on both corners, the gold screws are for this piece. So mine stopped because I had it set at 7. For all the little screws, I usually set it at 7, so it doesn't over tighten it. So I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. That way these tabs don't try popping out of place. And that way that lip is holding on good enough so that I could start putting the rest of it together. Alright, so now there's also a little tab that you also need to line up back here. It's supposed to line up into this hole. So that tab pushes in. Most likely the same thing, we're probably gonna have to add a screw to that just to hold it in place. So the next piece that we're gonna be working on is gonna be those two. That's where you're gonna put the nuts and bolts and the washer with the Allen wrench that you gotta tighten it up with. So we're gonna put these faced up. We're gonna put it faced up just so that this piece will not be sitting lower, just in case somebody puts this like on a lowered car. You don't want that nut to end up getting grinded off. The nut to end up grinding off, like if you're lowered and scraping on curbs and driveways and speed bumps and all that. So line it up, push them in. Like I said, the washer goes on this end with the nut. I'm just gonna put them hand tightened for now. I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. And once I put the other two on, we'll go ahead and tighten these up. All right, so we tightened up all four of those already with the size 4 Allen wrench and a 10mm. Those two tabs on both sides are lined up. Are inside the hole like they should be. The screw right there on both sides are in like they should be. Now we gotta re-drill the black part on all the little tabs right there, the 6 of them. Yeah. Alright, you guys, so now this one is kind of an awkward spot to put a screw. Is that as much as this side goes in? Yeah. But since they wanted us to put screws in all the other tabs, I'm just assuming that this one should also have a screw. Alright. Besides that, only other one we have left now is right here on the corner of the bumper. So you gotta line this up till the bumper lines up best on the corners. Same exact thing on both sides, and then just put a screw on the hole. And this piece goes on the outside, don't try and tuck it on the inside, or you'll probably end up with like a weird gap. It looks good right there? Mm-hmm. Alright. So you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Basically, that's the whole assembly for this bumper. I'm also gonna show you guys in this video how to assemble the grill, even though I have a separate video how to do that. One more little tip for you guys, if that little tiny gap right there is gonna bug you guys, I'll show you guys what I think will kind of work to get rid of that. So we put pressure like this, the gap gets a little bit smaller. So if you look in the back, you have two pieces of plastic, top and bottom, from the grill and the bumper. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have somebody hold this for me and put pressure right here. And I'm gonna end up just putting a self-tap, well, not a self-tap, but the little screws that they give. I just gotta make sure I hit both plastics when I do it. I'm just gonna put a screw right there on both sides. All right, so you could see that the gap closed up a lot now with adding that screw. We actually ended up adding that one that I told you guys we were gonna add, and then we also added two right here since that corner part gets covered up by the side of the lip anyways. So we drilled these into the actual lip. Just make sure you don't go too close to this crease on the bumper because you don't want the screw to be visible from out here. But as you can see, the gap looks a lot better than it was. Alright, so this is how the bumper looks after you guys assemble it up to that part without doing the grill, but I'm going to show you guys also how to do the grill. So you guys can see everything's done, it looks good. As you can see, this lip for this Type R style bumper looks more like the OEM one versus the one that we have that's like $50 less, because this one looks like a carbon fiber texture versus the other one is just like a flat plastic. And then the caps on these also look realer than the other one does. And then like I said, the fitment on this one, on the corners right here, they don't stick out. The most common issue you see on the other ones is that corner usually sticks out and you have a little gap basically from that corner to about right there. Alright you guys, so hopefully that video was helpful for you guys on how to assemble this Type R style front bumper cover and all the parts. It was my first time assembling it too, so I was learning as I taught you guys. If that's all you guys needed help with, peace out. Hopefully it was good for you guys. If you guys also want to see how to install the grill without having that ugly gap on top, like most people that install them themselves, stay tuned. I'm going to show you guys a couple little tricks on how I install the grills to not have that gap. And so when you install the grill, you don't end up marking up your paint. I don't know if you've ever seen that. A lot of the times people install them themselves, they end up scratching up the paint up here from the little plastic tabs. So I'll show you guys how to avoid that also. So one of the tricks that I do is I just put a piece of masking tape up here, well above each slot, so that when the plastic tabs for that grill come in, they're not going to poke anything. If it slides, it's going to slide up on that masking tape. So I'm going to do that to all of them, and then I'll show you guys putting on the bumper and the next steps that I take from there. Alright you guys, so when you install the grill, we're installing a Type R style grill, but all the grills should be the same on this front bumper. So you got these two tabs that are supposed to latch in here. And then you also have these two little nipple parts that are supposed to go in here. Well, there's supposed to be a hole for that nipple part and then another hole for the screw. So it looks like on this one we're most likely going to have to drill either one hole bigger or drill another hole for the other part. Besides that, you guys got a couple of screws that you need to put in. You got a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side, so 8 total. 8 screws and a couple of tabs on top. Alright, so like I told you guys, they only had one hole. They didn't have the hole for the tabs. So what I did is I put a little piece of white marker right there on the tabs that are supposed to slide in. And I lined up these where they were supposed to go, and I just kind of put some friction on it, a little bit of friction, just so that it could make that little indentation for me. So now that that's there, I'm just gonna get a drill bit and drill out a hole right there on both sides so that that little tab can slide in place like it should. Alright you guys, so now that those line up, now that I drilled that hole, and then these tabs, they don't lock in like they do on the other bumpers, but they still fit into that slot, which is fine. Alright, so the holes that they make are super small, so I'm just going to put the screw in each one to make the hole a little bit bigger. Because for example, that first one didn't even line up, and I'm not trying to break the plastic on the inside because that's all that it holds on to besides the tabs. So I'm just going to make all these holes that they already have the same size as the screw at least. So it'll be a little bit easier to see inside. Another thing you could do is mark those holes with the white marker. That way when you're looking through the hole, obviously it's going to be dark, so you're going to see black. But like this, you'll see some white paint, and that should kind of stand out to you. And then on the other side, it looks like they don't even put a hole. They forgot to put the little hole for that corner part of the grill. So I'm kind of just going to eyeball it and make my own hole. Let me try making these a little bigger and seeing if that helps at all. Should be a little better.
You overtime it, you'll crack the plastic.
So what I did, so they could line up a little better, I actually had to make these holes a little bit bigger and higher so that little tab would push in all the way because it kind of hit on the crease of the bumper. All right here on the corners, you have to make sure that this piece slides into the little crease. This little crease. If not, then you end up with a big ugly gap right there. Alright, I always suggest leaving these. There's one on each side. I suggest leaving these till after you line up the top of the grill. You don't want to tighten those, and that's when you start having a harder time lining up that top. So you can see how much it's off right now. So what we're going to do is line up these corner tabs. I usually line up the corner ones first, and then put a piece of masking tape around the grill and the bumper to keep it from popping out like that. Because the top of these bumpers, once you remove the grill, whether it's OEM or aftermarket, it's going to be very flimsy. All right, so we're gonna line up this corner one first. And then I'm gonna put a piece of tape around it so it doesn't pop off from all the other tabs not being in place yet, or from the pressure of the bumper and the grill, the difference from the two. We're gonna do the same exact thing on the other side. Just make sure that any of the tabs in the middle are not going to a different location. I mean, like going upwards towards that blue masking tape that I told you guys to put towards the top so that it wouldn't hit. Then what I'm gonna do while he holds the front and kind of puts pressure, I'm gonna start lining up the back to make sure that each one pops into place. Some of them you gotta start from the middle, some of them you gotta start from the corners. All these bumpers are different. Don't put a lot of pressure with the screwdriver, I'm just doing it to get that little tab to line in place, to latch in place. So those three are done. Now this one, you could slightly put pressure on the actual tab, and then you could kind of wiggle it around till it goes in place. Just don't put a lot of pressure with the screwdriver. You don't want to break the clip or break that little tab that's supposed to latch in. Then you guys could take out the tape from the two corners and all the middle part. Only other part that I do is I actually cut a little thin piece of metal. And what I do is I cut these little pieces in half and I wedge it in between. So I get some needle nose pliers and I push it in here and then twist it in so that it will constantly always apply pressure on that little tab so that it will always be latched in. The little pieces of metal that I cut are just small little pieces like that to wedge in between. So I already did the other ones, I just left one so I can kind of show you. You wedge it in between the grill and the bumper. And then you just kind of push it in place. Sometimes it goes straight in. Sometimes you gotta push it in and kind of twist it sideways like this one's doing. Once it twists sideways, you just reapply the pressure on it. And push it in as much as you can without having to force it too much. That's just so that all the tabs have pressure. I'll show you guys what it looks like from the sides and from the front. All right, you guys, so after you clip those top ones in, you gotta remember to put this last screw in on both sides. So make sure that it's lined up with the hole on the inside with the grill. So for this one to line up, you just usually gotta press up a little bit like that. And you could double check with the flashlight too. So push it up, look, make sure the holes line up before you screw it in. Hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. If it was, please like and subscribe to the channel so I can make more like this. So that's the secret that I do when I install these so that you don't have that big gap that you even see on the OEM bumpers right here between the grill and the bumper. All right, you guys, so that's the end of that step-by-step video. Hopefully that video was helpful for you guys on how to assemble this style Type R front bumper cover. So it looks really good. if you guys are gonna put that red stripe on the front, all you do is clean that up with a clean rag. Clean it with rubbing alcohol. Don't use a high percentage, like 40 or 70 at the most, because you go more towards a pure rubbing alcohol, it starts to dry out the plastic if you don't clean it up right away. So just get rubbing alcohol, put it, swipe this clean, wait for it to dry, and little by little you peel that red strip and just stick it on there. For the emblem, if you guys put an emblem, same thing, just clean it, stick it on. If you're putting the OEM one, you got to put the 2 brackets right there, and then take this middle piece off so that you could put the little parts that clip on from the back on there. The eyelids, they just snap in place when you're putting it back on the bumper. If you guys don't know how to remove the bumper, I'll put a link in the description below on how to remove the OEM bumper. If you guys like this video, if it was helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you guys want me to make more videos where I show you guys some tips and tricks that we do and how to assemble stuff and install stuff.